Welcome to Booksoul. And my response to a book tag. It occurred to me, they're very popular, aren't they? And it occurred to me that as I read of Children of the Dead by Elfriede Jelinek, um, has got very limited appeal to anybody in general. There's only going to be a very few specific number of people that have heard of the book, let alone read it. And I'm hoping that, well, perhaps my 100 Great Reads series might be a bit more favoured. But tags certainly are, and so I'm going to have a go after doing the newbie tag at this particular one, which is the mid-year freakout tag. Okay. And start off with what is the best book that you've read so far this year? Well, my answer to that is quite clear, although I am going to put two books forward. It is this book by Han Kang, We Do Not Part, which is a story. She's a South Korean writer, and it's a story that brings to light a little publicised atrocity that happened in South Korea on the island of Jeju. And it's a very touching story. One scene in particular really stands out for me, which is in the middle of a snowstorm at a bus stop, which, sounds kind of strange. Do read this, it's fantastic. I'll probably be talking about it in other videos. Let's move on. The second book that I'd want to go, and is my second favourite, if I've got to rank them, I suppose I'm going to have to do it that way, but it's this one, which is The Empusium by Olga Tokarczuk. Again, a fantastic writer, and you really should read it. This is a little bit reminiscent of the Thomas Mann's Magic Mountain, and it's a subtitled A Health Resort Horror Story. And it really is really good. So, yeah, read that. Okay, what's the next one? Right, best sequel you've read so far. Well, here's a gripe that I have with BookTube and this question. What are you talking about? Sequel? I don't read, personally, books in series and aren't sort of books where I get the sequel. I mean, there's trilogies that I've read. Pat Barker's Regeneration trilogy, Javier Marias's trilogy of Your Face Tomorrow, trilogy by Jean-Paul Sartre, Roads to Freedom trilogy. But a series, not really. On to the next question. New release you haven't read yet but want to. Okay, I'm going to pick something here, a book that I've got in my library but I haven't read yet, so it's not necessarily a particularly early release, but I'm very keen to read it, and because of a restriction that I put on myself, which is that this year I am only going to read books written by female authors. I've got a greater anticipation for this one because it's a male author and one of my favourite male authors that I haven't read, and so I'm anticipating, after Christmas I'm going to be able to read this. It's Michelle Houellebecq and Serotonin. I love this guy, this guy's writing, because it's reminiscent of Martin Amis and that kind of dark, very cynical view of things, and it's vigorous writing that is really good. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Most anticipated release of the second half of the year. Okay, well, I have got one for that, but again I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to suggest The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong, which actually has already been released in May, but I haven't read it yet. And again, being a male author, I can't read it till next year. What I will show you is this one, On Earth Where being were briefly gorgeous, which I mistakenly put forward to a little small book group that I was part of, and they hated it, um, mainly because they're used to more conventional works. I just found this really quite tricky to get around. It's a difficult book to understand and to get to grips with. Um, this I think is Ocean's first book, and this second one will be the second book. That's amazing, isn't it? Um, so I'm really looking forward to reading that and seeing if it's more accessible than this, or where uh, his writing actually goes next time round. Let's have a look. The biggest disappointment. Well, my biggest disappointment, I guess, was my daughter had given me one of the electronic readers. What's it called? Oh my goodness me! Doesn't matter, does it? But anyway, um, I downloaded a number of things on there that I could read. Kindle. That's the word I'm after. I normally just do books. I don't do Kindle. Um, but I can see where it might be useful. And I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And I got some things downloaded on there, and there are a few things that I've read in the first half of the year that I've read from the Kindle. Um, and this is one of them. This was the Voyage of the Narwhal by Andrea Barrett, and I just found it really tedious. Although I'm interested in Arctic and Antarctic voyages, it's always an interesting topic. I think the entire bleakness and whiteness of the Antarctic or the Arctic, whichever one we're talking about at the particular time. Um, but this had boring characters, a boring plot, so overused and predictable, and no, it's just no, absolutely not my bag at all. Biggest surprise. Let's go on to something a bit more cheerful. That I'm going to give to this collection of short stories. I Hold the Wolf by the Ears by Laura van der Berg, American short story writer. And a biggest surprise to me, I guess, because I'd not heard of her before. I'm not quite sure I can remember why I ended up reading this. But I thought that the stories were uh, a revelation, which is what I wanted in books, a revelation. Uh, a feminist viewpoint on things, looking at modern society and the stresses that it puts on on female on females, and really it's got some it's a story that's Lizards, which is about a man who drugs his wife in order to subsume her anxieties. It's got a story that the title story is about a woman who um, goes on holiday in Italy, and it goes horribly wrong, and she ends up um, posing as her far more successful sister who was supposed to be there and isn't. Um, and then there's another story, Carolina, which is about a woman who finds out after there's an earthquake, her rather a sister-in-law, ex-sister-in-law that she doesn't get on with too well, reveals some dark secrets about her brother. Um, so yeah, this was my big surprise. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was great. New author. So my new author is one of the books that I read on the Kindle, which was Under the Eye of the Big Bird, a Japanese author called Hiromi uh, Kawakami, and she's written lots of well-acclaimed books that are starting to get translated into English now, and I'm very much looking forward to reading more of her work. I wasn't totally over the moon with with Under the Eye of the Big Bird, but it was a very intriguing novel. And yeah, I want to read more of what she's written. Next question: who's your newest fictional crush? Oh, please! Oh, I'm not 14. You know, I'll just pass over that one. Really, fictional crush? No. Okay. Who's your newest favourite character? Okay, well that one I can sort of answer, I guess, because I'm going to pick um, Eileen, the character in the protagonist in Where I End by Sophie White. Um, this is this is a horror book, really, but I do recommend it because it's really, oh, yeah, it's gut wrenching. It's a hell of a story. Um, and Eileen's a 19-year-old girl on this island, isolated island off Ireland, which is where it's set, and she's um, completely bound up with having to look after her mother, who she calls the bed thing, um, and Eileen's totally dominated by her grandmother, who has to look after the mother, who's completely disabilitated, and all her bodily functions have to be looked after, and it's Eileen's job to do this. Obviously, that Eileen's utterly abused by the terrible life that she's forced to lead. She's actually ostracised and feared by the few other people that live on the island anyway. Um, and from there, things get worse. And yeah, if you want a really visceral horror book, um, Eileen's an incredibly interesting character, but a very tragic and horrifying one. This is a real horror. There we are. That's my character. What's the 10th question? 10th question is a book that made you cry. Okay, well, I think for that I'm going to pick out the Book of Disappearance by, oh, goodness me, I might get out of the way. There we are. Accidentally hit the mouse. The Book of Disappearance by Itisam Azem, which is a book about the plight of the Palestinian people. And it's set in the Israeli city of Tel Aviv, or part which was Jaffa when it was Palestinian, rather than being taken over by the Israelis. And the woman in the protagonist in the story is just trying to live an ordinary kind of life. She's got friends who are Israelis as well as Palestinian people. You know, people go on about multiculturalism being. Some people think it's a terrible evil, where actually it's an incredible good thing. People do get along when they've lived together and share the same experiences, even though they've got totally different cultures. You know, I think this is one of the things that I think that I love about my hometown of Wolverhampton. You know, people. It's a wonderful multicultural city. We've got a huge Sikh population there. We've got people from the subcontinent. There's just so many different people. Anyway, this book makes you cry because it has a deceit that all of a sudden, one day like that, all the Palestinians have disappeared. They've gone. And we see the impact of that upon the society. And what's really upsetting about it is, of course, that's what Netanyahu and the extreme Zionists doing at this very time, and with the help of the UK government and the USA, totally, we're supporting Israel in this uh, terrible um, scourging of the Palestinian people. Yeah, there we are. Well, yeah. So that's that one. That's the one that upset me most. What was the book that made you happy? I don't really do. I do happy. Of course I do. Let me pick out another one that I read on the Kindle. And this is I read Frankenstein for the first time, Mary Shelley's classic novel. And why did it make me happy? Well, I don't know. I mean, it was nice because I hadn't read it before. And I knew the story was nothing like all the depictions of the Frankenstein monster that we get these days in cinema and in popular culture. So it was really nice to actually read the story, and it's got this framing device of this exploration in the Arctic as well, which was attractive, and it made me kept making me smile, I suppose, because it reminded me of my favourite comic film, which is Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein, which is so funny. So yeah, let's pick that, Frankenstein. Um, what's the most beautiful book you've bought so far? Um, okay, I think I'm going to go for this is beautiful not in design or whatever. This is beautiful in what it's presenting to you. I think that's the way I'm going to interpret this question. So I'm going to put forward another classic book that I read for the first time this half year, which is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, um, which is a beautiful book to read. You have to read it slowly, and it's the actions slow. The pacing is slow. It's all about just one day, but it goes into such intricate detail about each of the characters that are in there and the feelings that they're having at that particular time, and then it elides over to a different character on the same street, and then back again to, and it's such a beautifully flowing novel that yeah, that's what I'm going to put forward for that. Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. And I think it's the last question now, which is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Well, I don't need to read anything by the end of the year. I've got past doing that. You know, I did set myself a target of reading 100 books one year, and it was horrible um, because I was trying to get through 100 books, which was a lot of books. Um, and I found it stressful. I found it that I wasn't enjoying my reading. Um, so now I go at the pace that the books demand of me, rather than me going, well, I've got to read this many books. In the first 6 months of this year, I've read 27. I don't know how many I'm going to read in the next year next half because it takes time. Sometimes you have a book like this one that I'm reading at the moment, The Children of the Dead, where it's over 500 pages. It's thick, dense writing on the pages. There's not many paragraph breaks in this. It's um, it's stuff that's going to take a long time to get through. It'll take me a long time to read this. Um, I mean, I expect read 3, 4, 500 page books in the time that it's going to take me to read this. Yeah. So, which ones have I got to read by the end of the year? Don't know. Apart from the other female written books that I've got a pile just hidden back there of books, which is what I tend to do when I'm trying to decide what I'm going to read next. I'll have a selection of books, some from my library that have been sitting on my shelves for a time, and I haven't read, and then others that are newly bought because I read a review or they're some other reason. Somebody recommended them and I went out and bought them. And it's one of those that I'm going to put forward here. It's likely to be the next book that I read, I would guess, because again, it's a bit shorter, and after that long one, I'll probably need that. So this is Die, My Love by Arianna Harvitz. I think the main reason I'm going to put this forward is because having read some recommendations and reviews about Arianna Harvitz, I can't understand why I haven't read her before. And I'm really excited that this is going to be discovering a totally new author to me, who's I'm likely to be an extraordinary writer. So I'm really looking forward to reading that. And that gets me to the end of this particular tag. I hope that was enough of a freak out. And I shall, at that point, say cheerio from Booksalve and happy reading to you all. Bye.